Okay, yet another series, and we're going to go deeper into our conversation from the last time where we talked a lot about the parents' responsibility and how you can use the sex educator sometimes to gain comfort. Yeah, and I want to pick that conversation, Doctor, today and go a little more deeper in some of the things which you talked about in the earlier session. And so, welcome once again, Doctor, for this new series. Okay, so let's then dive into the first question. Doctor, so you talked last time about, and very beautifully you said that the importance of getting the comfort for parents, and sometimes they are not comfortable. So why can't they get to the sex educator? And in your experience, you have done that several sessions where you made sure that the kids, you and the child is having a conversation about sex education, but you ensure either the father or mother, whoever is actually come to escort, he or she is also present. So there is a comfort amongst them, so there is a transition. It's not that they become dependent on you. And that was such an awesome thought. I wanted to check with your experience. Like, have you seen? Can you think of examples of people comes to your mind who came with those hesitation, and later on you got to know that it became a second language for them?
Yeah. See, first of all, if any parent calls me and say, okay, I'm going to bring my child to you, and can I send the child with my driver? I said no. Either of you will have to accompany. But no, you want me to talk to him now? I said no. I want to talk to him in your presence. Why is our presence so necessary? I said you will know it only when you come, and they appreciate it. How it helps, I'll tell you. First of all, when the father is or a mother is listening to what I'm talking to, either their son or daughter, they exactly know how what I spoke, so they don't have to do any guesswork. What child is listening, they are listening to. In that process, what they naturally learn is a comfort level. Because all that they thought earlier was it would be so difficult to talk about sex. I don't know how exactly doctors tell, what language they use, how will it feel using the word like masturbation and this and that. But when they silently are observing and seeing how comfortably doctor is talking, he is using the correct language and it doesn't sound vulgar or it is not awkward at all. And how well my child is taking it. On the contrary, I'm surprised this child is brought up by me. I have seen him since his birth, and here doctor is talking to him. How comfortably the language is so scientifically correct, and even I'm very comfortable listening to this conversation. I'm not feeling awkward at all. So they are realizing it inside. So they are getting more comfortable with the subject. That's one advantage. Secondly, they are exactly knowing what was told to the child. So what happened? Father has understood, but child has not understood a concept. Later on at home, the child may express his confusion or may ask, Papa, I did not understand this. Father has heard, so he can explain now because he has just heard. He's not giving his answer, he's giving doctor's answer probably in a more elaborate manner. Third thing, any question that would arise as a sub question in the child's mind subsequently, he could very well take the liberty to ask father, Papa, do you remember the doctor was saying such and such a thing? I wanted to know this. So at that time, if father knows he's already developed some comfort level, he can always start, telling child. Or he say, okay, better, even I don't know. But next time we are going now, we'll both ask this question. But father is being so humble about it. He's not trying to show off anything that either I don't know or and he's not becoming even awkward. So all sub questions and the dialogue between a father and son has begun, and that was the purpose. Because I don't want the child to come for several sessions to me. After a couple of sessions, when I am more than a child, I look at the father or the mother. If they are comfortable, invariably I ask them, "How comfortable are you listening to me talking to a child?" And has he asked any questions when you on your way back home or when you are at home? And 9 out of 10 parents said yes. He opened up. Even I felt so comfortable. We had a discussion. I wondered why I could not have such a discussion earlier. I'm very thankful to you, doctor. But there are genuine questions which I may not be able to answer. Now I'm comfortable. I'm convinced that this is necessary. I'm convinced that I should be sitting there to understand from you, but I myself don't know certain answers. So next time I can answer so that they get educated. And then I say, now again to learn every new answer, you don't have to come read the book. All that I wanted you to is to develop that comfort level with the subject and get the basic terminology that you should be knowing. Now you know it, now be on your own. Because your child is not with advancing age, with little later, he will have different issues. He will have different questions. And you will have a book to refer. And the dialogue has begun between you and your child. And that was the purpose of bringing him to me. And not creating a dependency on me. It is on the contrary, empowering you to be able to have a dialogue with your child. And it's going to also help you to develop a bond between son and father, or mother and daughter, or in any gender combination you can look at it. And that is also going to help them in their relationship with each other.
Just out of curiosity, what percentage of, two questions actually. One is it important to have joint conversation? When I say joint, both parents, do you insist in getting both parents? And the second question comes to my mind is, what have you seen? The percentage, if you call out mother coming with the son or daughter, or father coming, like what would you call out?
See, if it is a complete family, when I say complete means mother and father both are there, and brother and sister both are there. That's what I'm kind of using the word complete. Not that unless you have 4 people, you're complete. That's not the meaning there. In that, always both the parents should ideally come. But nowadays, both the parents are working also, so they are not able to come together. So at least one of the parents should come, irrespective. If the daughter's father could come, if a son, mother could come, and they come in that combination also very often. But if they ask me who should come with the son, I will never say whoever, actually both. But if one of you have to come, see who is available and who can come. I have no issue with that, because in very saying that, I'm also showing that I have no gender bias. Why can't daughter not talk to father? I always wonder. What is exactly that she's going to talk that will make father awkward? For example, daughter says, Papa, I'm getting my periods. Beta, do you know how to use a sanitary pad? Has anyone shown you that? You know about why you get periods at this particular age? What is the meaning of it? How you need to maintain your hygiene? Why can't a father talk to daughter like that? Or if the son goes and asks mother about it, Mama, whenever that I look at girls nowadays, I get erection and I feel very embarrassed. And Mama, whenever I touch my private parts and whenever I touch my penis, it feels good, Mama. And that day, a different kind of a liquid came. What is it, Mama, that is happening? Why can't son talk to mom? Mom is such a close, and subsequently, ultimately, this son, when he's married, few years later, he's going to intimately relate with a woman only. His most intimate moment in his own life is going to be with a woman. So if he is comfortable talking to even his mom about these issues, if the daughter is comfortable talking to a father about these issues, it is going to help them even in their relationship later on, when they are in a real relationship in their life. So there should not be any such gender rule that son has to be taken by father and daughter has to be taken by mother. Not at all. No way.
Yeah. It's a great point, and I think and combination works, because if you come with both together, I think that's an ideal way of looking at it. Doctor, I'm just imagining after these sessions, a couple of sessions with you, a father looking at the mirror and saying, sex, vulva, penis. The entire comfort of those words. And it's a great transition, right? Because it's good to get comfortable, because the tone matters a lot, right, Doctor? Because the way you say it, because you make it as normal as a language. So I would love to see that kind of transition with our conversation, where people start talking like this, like a casual discussion. Doctor, the other day also you mentioned a couple of things, on one of the things is very important for teens is to release their the sexual feeling, and the nature has given such a brilliant tool, which we often don't utilize to our advantage, is the word masturbation, right? And I'm sure there are a lot of people who are unsure, not aware, and even parents sometimes are not aware, like, should girls masturbate? Should boys masturbate? Should they be allowed? What are the rules parents should keep when they talk about this topic? If you can just talk a little bit on that.
First of all, boys as well as girls. Why should we discriminate? All of us like to be pleasured. Nature has given equal number of neuroreceptors on our private parts and on our body also. Erogenous zones are given equal to man and woman. So that means nature says that both of you are capable of experiencing this pleasure. So if boy can self-pleasure is another word for masturbation. If boy can self-pleasure, why can't girls self-pleasure? On the contrary, self-pleasuring is the safest way, because then you don't have to involve anyone else. You can't catch any sexually transmitted disease. You don't have to spend any amount. You don't have to go and visit any special place. You can very well do in the comfort of your house. You don't need anyone's company. You don't need any gadget. You don't need to spend any amount. And there is no fear of you catching any infection or any sexually transmitted disease. So self-pleasuring is something that is to be advocated to boys as well as girls together. Why should we say your boys are allowed to masturbate while girls are not? Of course, very nature of the girls' sexuality and boys' sexuality differ, because nature has made certain difference. The way boy would get aroused or excited and the girl would get aroused and excited, they differently. They both get aroused and excited, and sexual urges and thoughts and feelings arise differently in them because their very nature is different. But both are capable, and both should be self-pleasuring if they wish to. There should not be any restriction on both of them. It is said that 99% men masturbate and rest 1% lie. And as far as girls are concerned, 80% girls or women masturbate. 20% simply suppress. Suppress out of fear, out of restrictions, out of myths and misconceptions, out of religious restrictions, or out of something wrong, fearful told to them, or some morality associated with that. That is why they suppress. Otherwise, I think there should not be any problem. Whoever wants to self-pleasure can very well pleasure. Of course, there are rules. For example, even if you want to have a meal, there are rules that wash your hands. Don't drop your food here and there. Do it eat in a relaxed manner so that you chew it properly. And then at the end of it, wash your hands. These are basic rules, even with something like having a meal. Something similar when you are masturbating, you have to follow certain rules. For example, maintain hygiene. Don't do it in a manner that you are not maintaining hygiene. Because, for example, a boy is masturbating in his bed, and the semen that spills over is all around his pelvic region, all in his groin and on his body, and he just sleeps like that. That wetness, that stickiness that remains there, which he doesn't clean subsequently, can invite skin infections. That can cause even urinary tract infection. And then he will have an issue. So maintain hygiene. That's one thing. Secondly, do it in your privacy. Just because it is okay to masturbate doesn't mean you can do it in public place or invite someone and do for each other. No, do it in privacy, maintain hygiene. Number 3, don't do it in a manner that you will hurt yourself. As a little teenage boy working in a garage, motor garage, he used a spanner to masturbate and injured himself. Now, just because masturbation is okay doesn't mean you should do it in a manner that you will hurt yourself or injure yourself. So, do it in privacy, maintain hygiene, do it in a manner that doesn't cause any injury to yourself. And 4th, if you are a married person, that doesn't mean you should not masturbate. And if you have a partner there, your wife is there, and she is also eager to have sex, instead of having sex with your married partner, if you start preferring masturbation over your having a sexual relationship, then probably it may not be the best correct thing to do. So otherwise, if you follow these basic rules, I think it's perfectly okay.
Okay, what about overindulgence?
Again, overindulgence, what is the benchmark? What is the cutoff point? One has to look at that. See, anything that we overdo, when do we call it as an overdoing? See, whenever it starts affecting your other aspects of your life, for example, it starts affecting your education, it's affecting your daily routine, it starts affecting your health, it starts affecting your time management, it starts affecting your sleep cycle, it starts affecting your work responsibility. So whenever you do anything that starts making you dysfunctional in certain necessary aspects of your life, it is only then one has to do something about it. Then only you can say it has been overdone. But otherwise, there is no numerical safety limit. You cannot do more than twice or thrice. I know people who masturbate twice or thrice a day. They're okay. And there are people who masturbate twice or thrice in a month. They're also okay. Neither of them should feel that they are underdoing it or overdoing it. It's like your appetite. How much food will you serve yourself in a buffet depends on your appetite. As long as you are taking care of other aspects of your life, you are a student, you are studying well. If you are a student, you are attending your college, you are doing even extracurricular activities, then you are masturbating. That's perfectly okay. If you are so preoccupied with masturbation that you stop studying, stop going to school, 24/7, you are obsessed with that thought, then it is an obsession. It is an obsession that's harmful, and not how many times you are masturbating that's really, physiologically speaking, going to be harmful. Or if you feel guilty every time you pleasure, you feel so bad. I'm such a sinner. I'm so bad. I've done something wrong, immoral. If you're going to beat yourself up with each masturbation because there is a natural urge you are masturbating, and then subsequently you are going to feel guilty and bad about it, it is a guilt which is harming you more than the masturbation. And these things have to be told. And if these basic rules are explained to children, then first of all, they'll masturbate without feeling guilty. Secondly, they will do it in privacy. Third thing, they will not let the other aspects of their life affected, as long as you are doing everything that's really necessary to live a normal, healthy life. And over and above your masturbating is perfectly fine for boys as well as for girls.
Doctor, we are so binary in our thoughts. So, immediate thought comes to mind is, because for parents, it's always that how can we not lead to over obsession, because that habit can become more, because anything you get into a habit and then it can overpower you at some point in time. So is there a some kind of a rule of thumb or some kind of a way we can create a guidance around number of times, etc.
For the parents, you are saying, or for the child?
Yeah, parents to communicate when they're communicating.
See, more than communicating, parents should be very observant of the child. I always tell them, very observant. How is your child doing in his school? How is he looks? How does he look? What is his body language? What is his mood? Does he communicate normally? Is he upset? Is he disturbed? Is he hyper? So you have to observe, because you have observed this little child since his birth. So any change which is noticeable, you should be able to notice. So any drastic change in a child's behavior is suggestive of something. That something did not be always masturbation or related to it. So it could be something that he's not doing well in school also. Or there is something bothering him. There's some boys that are bullying him. Or he has had some painful traumatic experience which he is hesitant to report to you. So a parent have to be always very observant. If they see the child is growing normally, he's a happy child, he's studying well, he goes to school, he has friends, he's taking part even in extracurricular activities. Don't bother about how many times he's doing. However many number of times he's doing, it has not affected his other aspects. Then don't go asking him how many times, and if he's doing 4 times it is wrong, and if he's doing 3 times it is right. No, not at all. On the one, if you see your child affected, upset, disturbed, depressed, aloof, not mixing, suddenly there is a change of behavior. He's not going and playing with friends, which he used to earlier. Suddenly his studies, he has gone down. He's bunking school. He's falling ill too often. Then on the contrary, parents should look into it. What's gone wrong? Not that it is always related to, again, masturbation or anything like that, but there is definitely something happening in this child which you need to explore. And the child will come up and open up to you only you have built that kind of relationship with the child. That is why I say one fine day you can't suddenly start developing a relationship with your child. You have done it since childhood. First of all, child will come and tell you, he will open up very first. He will not reach to that level where it is affecting him. First time he felt sad, he will come and talk to his mom and dad. Something is bothering him at school, he will come and talk to his mother and father. Fight with a friend and he will come and talk. Similarly, if the child's otherwise behavior is normal, don't bother about how often he is masturbating.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think key takeaways, physiologically, there are no rules on that. And therefore, one should not really worry about doing that. self-pleasure is not sin. You should do that as and when you feel like. So that is an important thing.
I also tell the parents, I tell the father, you have no business to ask your child, even if your child is 14-year or 13-year-old, how many times you masturbate. I said, does he come and ask you how many times you have sex with mom? And if you ask, how will you feel? Why? You deserve privacy. And he doesn't deserve privacy. You have no business. Huh? You have a business that if he's upset, he's disturbed, he's affected with something, it's your business. Find out what's disturbing my child. Why is my child depressed? Why is my child going down in his studies? That's your business. But directly asking him is not at all your business. He deserves to have that privacy. Why you're taking so long to have bath? He could very well be masturbating. Why are you asking this? Unless he's having long bath is delaying him from going to school or missing his school bus, then you can say, yeah, better go early in that case. If you are going to take longer for your bath, don't go at 11th hour, something like that. So discipline in a manner that you allow privacy as well as it doesn't disturb.
Great point out there. Because the bath taking is people, parents unnecessarily look for cues. As you use the word observe, they become over observant in areas which is not required, and this is such a leave that space for the child.
TakeTones.com